Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of American Soccer Quick Kicks. I'm your host, David Wright. I'm recording this on Sunday, June 25th. The USA opened the Gold Cup last night against Jamaica. I hope you watched that with me. We're playing what very generously might be called our B team. Reality, maybe B minus, maybe even C plus team. This is not by any means the best group of players that we can put out there, but we played hard and we gave up a goal early. In about the 13th minute, we gave up a goal to Damian Lowe, who actually plays for Philadelphia in MLS. They looked like they were about to put the game away in the first half when they drew a penalty kick. Matt Turner, who used to play for New England Revolution, is now with Arsenal in the Premier League. He actually made that save, held, and so kept it at 1-0. It stayed that way a long time. Right at the half, we had a fantastic opportunity to score from Seattle Sounders' Jordan Morris, and Philadelphia's Andre Blake, Jamaica's goalkeeper, made an incredible save to keep it at 1-0. It stayed that way till very late, until substitute Brandon Vasquez, who plays for Cincinnati in MLS, was actually able to get the goal, the equalizer in the 88th minute. So they left it late for a dramatic finish. The U.S. did manage to hold on for a 1-1 draw. This is a good result for us. We shouldn't have a problem with the rest of the group. A draw here should be, it puts us in a comfortable position to expect to advance out of the group. By no means is our Gold Cup run in any kind of danger, at least not yet. And Jamaica is certainly a quality team, certainly relative to the squad that we put out there for the U.S. So I don't hate the result. It's interesting. Jamaica had 6 English Premier League players on the field. The United States, I believe, had 8 MLS players. So we did well. We represented well. We got the 1-1 draw. Our next game for the Gold Cup is going to be on Wednesday night on FS1. We're playing St. Kitts and Nevis, which is a country I didn't know existed until I started following CONCACAF. They are one of the teams that went through the Gold Cup preliminary tournament to get one of those final 3 spots that I talked about. And so now they're in our group, and we will be playing them on Wednesday night, and we'll see how it goes. Personally, I think Christian Roldan showed that he deserved a spot in the starting 11. When he came on as a second half sub in place of Alan Sonora, I thought the United States immediately looked better. He brought a lot of really good energy. And I also wouldn't hate it if Brandon Vasquez also earned himself a start. So anyway, that's Wednesday night, FS1. Hope you watch that with me. But that's not really what I want to talk about today. I want to give you my reaction to the Gregg Berhalter rehire. I feel like I'm opening a can of worms here. There's a very loud segment of U.S. soccer fans that hate this. It's been kind of an ugly meltdown on Twitter and everywhere else. And I don't want to be a part of that. I'm not really looking at it that way. I'm not saying that I'm excited about this hire. I can see the positives of it. I can see the pros and I can see the cons. So let me just try to give you my feelings on it. Gregg Berhalter, first of all, let it be said, he did a good job in the last cycle. He frustrated us, right? Because maybe his squad decisions, maybe his substitute decisions. I think his substitutions were really what aggravated me the most. I don't think he always got those right. And also the style of play. I think when he first became the manager of the national team, I think he's trying to bring like a club manager's perspective to it, trying to be really detailed in his system, which is really hard to implement at the international level because you don't get the same group of players all the time, and you don't get them very often, just a few weeks out of the whole year. And so it's hard to apply that same game and that same approach to a national team. And I think he was trying too hard to do that. I think he did make the adjustment and back off of that over the course of his time with the team. And that's to his credit. But we have to let's put this in perspective. 2017, 2018, when he was first hired, we were scorched earth. We were in shambles. We were at our lowest point in decades. We had failed to qualify for the 28 World Cup. And We had a group of aging players that we realized the game had passed them by. There was a generation gap, right? And also explains kind of our lack of success at the Olympic level. But we needed a young group of guys to be able to like level up and start contributing for the senior team. We uh, we we were we were at ground zero. We were buried underneath ground zero. It cannot be stated how bad our program was in and what our player pool looked like when Gregg Berhalter took over finally in 2018. And what he was able to do in his 4 years or his 3.5 years is that he got us out of the group stage of the World Cup, and only losing in the round of 16 to the Netherlands. There's no shame in that World Cup showing. So, despite how he may have aggravated us in his approach, and how maybe you can even make the case that we got to that in spite of Greg, the fact is that we did it. We did it on his watch. He took a program that was in shambles, brought in new players. This was such a hard turn into a youth movement. Like everybody was gone out of that 2017 squad except for Christian Pulisic. And I think DeAndre Yedlin maybe was in that pool. Then that was really it. And all these new guys that we know now, they all got their debuts under, well, I should say post Bruce Arena. Some may have come in that interim before Berhalter took over, but the squad we took to the World Cup last year, so completely different, nearly 100%, 99% changeover from the previous World Cup cycle. What I'm saying is Gregg Berhalter built up our program and he got us there. And there's a lot that needs to be said for that. I think job well done. That goes down as a success. The question is he the right man for the job again? So there's a lot to unpack here. Number one, very rarely do you see managers take a national team for more than one World Cup cycle. And whenever you do see that, that second cycle rarely goes well. We've seen it with Bruce Arena. In our own program, we've seen it with Bruce Arena. We've seen it with Bob Bradley. And so I don't know if Berhalter is going to prove to be better than them at doing a second cycle with the national team. Also, the question is, have we now reached the maximum of where Berhalter can take us? Like, thank you for your service, sir. Now we need somebody to take us the next step. That could very well be the case. But here's the thing to consider. Number one, on the plus side, and I think there's a lot of weight that needs to be given to this. Players have come out in vocal support of Berhalter when they were doing this search, and they absolutely wanted him. And you have to give that some consideration. I was hoping for a big splash, like a big name splash hire that would turn heads and get us all excited. And, there was also the stigma of nepotism under Berhalter's hire because his brother was an executive at US Soccer. And a lot of people felt like that was the only reason Berhalter got the job. And then there was all the drama during the World Cup with Gio Reyna and his family, and how his family was sending text messages to friends of theirs that happened to be the executives in charge of US Soccer. And there seemed to it gave this kind of icky feeling of just maybe US Soccer getting a little too close knit, and we needed to break out of that. Right? We needed to get out of the old boys network, bring in some fresh blood from outside the program to kind of shed all that drama and all that gross ickiness and just try to focus on soccer again. And we finally did hire a sporting director, and it was somebody from outside the organization, right? Someone that's from England, and it seemed like a step in the right direction. Bringing Berhalter back in, and not only did we clean house, but we also hired a consulting firm to help us find the best person for the job, worldwide. And now in the end, 6-7 months later, we end up with where we started, with the exact same guy. And that just leaves me confused. And I'll understand, I don't hate Berhalter. I think he's a good coach. I think he might be a solid MLS coach. I'm not entirely sure that he's the best guy for this international team. I would love to have seen a bigger name come in, somebody more established that could truly, that we could all immediately have faith could truly get us to that next level. And, that didn't happen. You got to consider things like we're not having to qualify for this cycle. And so we're going to have less competitive matches. That might make the job less appealing. And also, it's a matter of who's under contract, who's got a job, who's available right now. And so there start becoming a lot of restrictions. And then it becomes a case of this is already a shortened cycle. This is not a 4-year cycle because the World Cup was played in December. The next one's going to be played in June of 26. So instead of 4 years, it's 3.5. So we're already cut down to 3.5 years to get ready. And then here we are in the summer. So now we're down to 3 years. It's already only 3 years to the next World Cup. And we're going to bring in somebody totally new, somebody from the outside, and start over. Like they're going to build a completely new program. They might not even want the same players that we've now got accustomed to that have been established under Berhalter. And we're going to try to learn a whole new system with limited number of windows and availabilities. That becomes challenging. I mean, that doesn't necessarily add up to being the best choice. I mean, maybe it is. Depends how much you hate Berhalter. But it's possible that doesn't make sense. And if we were going to, and if we had ended up with somebody else, anybody except Berhalter, then it could feel like this was wasted time. Like, why couldn't we hire somebody faster? We're halfway through this year. We're only 3 years out from the World Cup. That is time we could have spent getting ready. The last World Cup cycle was shortened for us. Well, it was because we got eliminated from qualification. We had the luxury of an extra year to get ready for the World Cup. And we did not take advantage of that extra year. We wasted a year with an interim coach before we ever hired Berhalter. And so that was wasted time that we could have been building a program and getting players into the system. And if we hire anybody else, that's still going to happen. We could still say this was time wasted in 2023 that we could have been building a program. By bringing in Berhalter, that time wasting seems minimized or even eliminated because it's the same group of players, it's the same system, and we haven't lost any ground. There's no wasted time, right? Really, the only time the World Cup team, right, the first choice A squad played was in the Nations League, and they won it. And they won it easily, they won it well. So it's not like we've regressed or lost ground waiting for Berhalter to come back. So now he can step right in with the top squad playing at 100%. And there can be a sense of maybe we haven't lost any time. So I get that. I understand why that makes it make sense. I just don't know if he's the right person for the job. I hopefully he's learned lessons, and hopefully he can evolve. Now, people are going to say, well, BJ Callahan, who's an interim, who's never head coach in his life, took Berhalter's players and dominated Mexico and Canada and won by a total score of 5-0. Why does Berhalter get credit for that? Well, I don't think he gets all the credit. I think Callahan absolutely raised his profile, and there's a lot of choices he made that I thought were really, really strong. And I hope he ends up with a good job, either remaining on staff with Berhalter or maybe even landing a job in MLS. I immediately have respect for him as a coach. But he was an assistant under Berhalter for the last couple of years, and they are kind of playing the same system. I hope that Berhalter will be encouraged by what he saw and be willing to be a little bit more attacking minded and willing to take risks to go forward and play a more exciting brand. I hope that'll happen. There's one more thing I want to say, which is his relationships with the players. We heard some high profile guys, I think Christian Pulisic for sure, it might have been Tim Weah, come out endorsing Berhalter and say they wanted him back. But obviously there's a couple of areas on this team where there's probably some very strained relationships and some bridge building is going to have to take place. Number one on that list is going to be Gio Reyna. What is it like right now? What's the interpersonal dynamic between Berhalter and Reyna? My understanding, at least as I'm recording this, is they haven't spoken yet. That's There's going to be some tension there that I hope can just be addressed, directly, clear the table that will allow these two men to be able to work together going forward. I think most of the blame for last year's drama lies on Gio Reyna's parents and not on Gio himself. Gio obviously did his part to get everybody aggravated with him with his lazy work ethic and training. But from everything I can tell, that got worked out internally, and the team's okay with them. I saw a lot of camaraderie and saw a lot of good team spirit between Gio and his teammates during the Nations League, and I'm going to be watching that type of body language and stuff closely to how much is he really a part of this group. What I saw was positive and encouraging, but the person that was not on the Nations League roster that I'm most curious about is Tyler Adams. He's someone who's not going to take a lazy work ethic from any of his teammates, and I imagine he was one of the ones most aggravated with Gio's approach in training last year, and probably had the biggest problem with him. I want to see that Reyna and Adams are cool now. We haven't had a chance to check that out yet. But also, what's going to happen with Berhalter and Reyna? Like, are they? They're going to have no tension. The air's got to be clear. And what happens the first time Berhalter doesn't play Reyna? Is like these kind of questions and all that kind of junk? It's going to hover over them for a while. They've got to be able to ignore all that and just work together. So there's relationship building that needs to take place there. Also, the other one's going to be Ricardo Pepi. Ricardo Pepi was not happy being left off the World Cup roster last year, and I do not blame him. He did everything that Berhalter told him to do to prepare himself for the World Cup, and then he sits there and watches himself get passed over in favor of Jesus Ferreira, who was behind him on the depth chart at Dallas, and took his spot at Dallas, and he got selected. Where Berhalter had encouraged Pepi to leave Dallas and make a move to Europe, which he did, he got left behind. So when Pepi got the call from Berhalter that he was not going to be playing in the World Cup, he hung up on him. Like he was that angry, he just click. And I don't know if they've spoken since. And then Pepi, of course, has that great goal in the Nations League, and I was very happy for him. I am very happy for him. But what's it going to be like between Berhalter and Pepi? Can they put all that behind them, not let it be baggage? You hope that they can. You hope they can be professional enough and mature enough to be able to do that. But we're all human beings. We all have feelings. There's an emotional aspect to all this, and they're going to have to be able to overcome that. So I hope that they can. The good news is, I choose to be an optimist. I am a fan of the U.S. men's national team, and I want them to succeed. And I know that everybody who's a fan ultimately wants the same thing. And I think that's why we get a lot of all these flame wars in the comments section. It was a lot of this hate toward Berhalter, and it's all for one reason. Because we all agree that there's a great opportunity in front of us. We understand the level of talent that we have in our squad. We understand what the potential is, and we all want the same thing, which is a great showing in the next World Cup. We want special things, and I think we're all on the same side with that. But because we're so anxious for that to work, we want this decision to be right. And you get nervous about it, like all through qualifying, I was yelling at the TV. You can do it with any team that you're a fan of. You're mad at the coach for this, you're mad at the player for that, but it's just your tension and pulling for the team. And then at the end of the day, they graduate out of the group stages of the World Cup and only lose to the Netherlands, and did not embarrass themselves in that game either, by the way. Mission accomplished. So you go, all right, good job. We all want the same thing. We want the best out of this opportunity with this group of players, with the World Cup coming to our shores. And if you don't feel like Berhalter's the guy, then you can trigger your temper. People can get angry at this. I get it, but here's the way I look at it. I'm going to pull for the team, and I want success. This is the choice that's been made. Given that it's been made, look at the positive side of it, which is we're not losing any ground. We're not going to be implementing a new system. Okay, he steps right in, and we're building on what's been built for the last 4 years. Therefore, waiting until July to make this hire official, that doesn't seem like wasted time. The impact of that time gap, is kind of minimized. There's a history that speaks against the idea of 2-cycle coaches having much success, but given what the other options were, and given the endorsement of the players on the team, this is what we're going to do. And and I would hope that now Berhalter can be operating at least clear of this feeling of nepotism, okay? Because his brother is long gone from U.S. soccer. This was a clean slate with new people in place, and he got this job on his own merits. So, like I said, I kind of rambled there because I'm of both minds. I can see the pros and the cons. I am left, it feels a little anticlimactic, I feel a little disappointed. It's like, well, if this is the guy we were going to have, why did we wait till July? So, I mean, I get it. I'm frustrated too, but but this is the decision that's been made. So, we'll see what happens. What I don't understand is why Berhalter is not managing the Gold Cup. That I can. There doesn't seem to be a good answer to that. I can speculate on some reasons, but I don't think they're good reasons. And if he's your manager, you've made the choice that he's your manager, and this is his squad, why can't he just step in and take control right now and manage this tournament for the CONCACAF Championship? Why have him remain on the sidelines while an interim who's never coached before tries to take our program through the CONCACAF Championship, the Gold Cup? I know that Callahan's contract goes through the end of July, but you know what? So what? I mean, he can either stay on as a staff, or you can buy him out. But if Berhalter's your guy, why isn't he your guy now? I don't. If it had been new blood coming in, I would get it. You don't want to put the pressure of a tournament on him first time out of the gate and set him up for a bad start, and everybody, it just kind of puts things down a bad path. You want him to come in with low stakes of the September friendlies. But this is Berhalter, and we should be past all that with him. So I don't know why he would not be the guy managing the Gold Cup. I'd love to have an answer to that. But anyway, we're back in the Gregg Berhalter business. I hope I know I've rambled. I hope everything I said made sense. But the bottom line is, maybe I'd have been excited with somebody else. And I don't necessarily believe a second cycle is going to be a success for him. Not personally against him, but just that's kind of the trend worldwide, over the history of decades. But it's the one we've gone with. And so the bright side is we don't lose any progress in building on the system that already exists. So is he the guy to take us to the next level in the next World Cup? The bar was set in 2002 when the U.S. reached the quarterfinals. I feel like we have to, at the very least, get to the quarterfinals in 26. Honestly, I'm looking at the semifinals. I think I'm going to be disappointed with anything less than the semifinals. Is Gregg Berhalter that guy? I don't know, but he is. He's been hired. So I'm not going to spend my time angry about that. I'm not going to boycott watching the game. I'm going to pull for this team, and I'm going to root and hope for the best because, because that's my approach. I don't want to be a toxic fan. I'm not going to hate watch it. I want to enjoy myself. So, I also am someone who grew up in Atlanta when, as a Falcons fan and a Braves fan, when both those teams were really bad. So I think I'm used to pulling for losing causes. I hope I don't have. I hope it's not that kind of fatalism that's playing into this right now, because I do continue to have high hopes for this team, and I can't wait to get our A squad back together because we looked so good in June. But anyway, I once again have gone way too long. Let me know what you think. Let's keep the comment section civil, please. And keep in mind, we have the Gold Cup coming up on Wednesday night, USA versus St. Kitts and Nevis. I hope you'll watch that with me, and I'll talk to you next time.